A very warm welcome to everyone tuning in. Welcome to episode 141 of Navigating Now. My name is Aishani Gupta, and I'm a senior consultant here at Thoughtium, and I will be your host for today's Navigating Now episode. We go live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central, and you can find all our episodes on thoughtium.com/live. We are extremely excited to welcome a guest today, someone who's been on this platform multiple times before, and we're always really looking forward to having him back on it with his little nuggets of wisdom. We'd like to welcome our guest, Chris Oltmans, a regional VP at AccentCare. Chris has built a career on leading and managing teams that are at the point of impact in the home health industry. This means finding new and progressive ways of enabling, incentivizing, and retaining your field employees. I'm very excited to talk about the future of field enablement with Chris on this episode today. So, welcome, Chris. How are you doing?
Hey, Ashani, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're very excited to have you on the show once again. And, Chris, question for you. What's one word to describe how you're coming in today?
Energized, excited.
Oh.
So I can only use one word. I'd say energized.
Energized.
So it's a very, very busy time in healthcare, an exciting time in healthcare. And we've got a lot of great growth that I'll tell you about with our people in the region that I manage at AccentCare. So I'm energized. Yeah.
That's amazing. I feel that's just the kind of energy we need when we have a guest on the show. So thank you so much for sharing that.
I am there. So let's do it.
Absolutely. Very excited to have you on the show today and looking forward to unpacking what does relationship management mean and what does it mean to enable your field teams. Before we get started, Chris, for the first time listeners on our platform, tell us a little bit about your story and the work you do today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am in the skilled home health care sector of medicine. So it's really important to disseminate skilled home health versus non-skilled home health. So we send nurses, physical, occupational therapists, skilled, speech language pathologists, and medical social workers into patients' homes. So there's that form of the industry, and then there's also the non-skilled, which is more of a caregiver model, where folks go in, take care of people around the clock or in segments of time to help them with their, meal preparation, taking care of their home, etc. So I've been in the skilled home healthcare industry for about 20 years now, which is crazy to think about. But that's what I do. And I manage our patient population. It's about 2,000 patients a day and about 250 employees from Detroit, Michigan on the east, and then through Northwest Indiana, Chicagoland, and then Omaha, Nebraska. So, and I am a regional VP of operations with AccentCare Home Health.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Chris. And I think there couldn't be a better person to learn more about relationship management who manages a team which is working so closely, at the point of impact and at the point of care. There is so much you get to see and experience, I think, with a team like that. You've made a career on relationships, really. So my question to you is, what does relationship management mean today versus maybe what it meant 10 years ago? Are there elements of it that have changed over the years, with changing times and the pandemic? Or are there some core ingredients that really never change and remain the same through time?
Yeah. So I think I'll go with what's potentially changed, at least in my experience. I want to be sensitive to that everybody's management or work environment is different. But at least in my environment, the things that have changed is we probably have a hybrid work environment at this point. So as managers, we really need to go the extra mile to know our people, meet with our people inside and outside of work. Not just inside the 9 to 5, but are we engaged with our employees? Are we engaged with our staff outside of work as well? To make sure that we take the polo off, we take the brand off, and we can still relate to each other and still know each other outside of the work environment. I don't think that's ever changed, but I do think as we went through the pandemic in a remote environment, now in a hybrid environment, it's very easy as a manager to disengage from your employees outside of the 9 to 5. And I think that's why we still see a lot of industries struggling with attrition.
Mhm.
Medicine has struggled with attrition over the last 3 years through the pandemic, but it can have a very um, just unsentimental and uncaring feeling to it as an employee in an environment where your management, your team members are these, existential components, but they're not in your circle. They're not with you every
Yeah.
day. You don't know them on a personal level. So I think that's something that's changed is we have to find the time creatively to go meet our people and go and really understand what makes them tick outside of work as well as inside of work so that we have that personal relationship. The thing that I don't the thing that I think has not changed with time is the demand of knowing our people. Um, again, inside and outside of work, but it was easier before. It was easier before where I'd see Ashani every single day. I'd see you every day at work, 9 to 5,
Yeah.
right? Well, during the pandemic, we didn't see each other at all outside of a Teams window or outside of a virtual window. Now we have this hybrid environment where folks are working from home part of the time, they're in the office part of the time. The part that hasn't changed is I think really understanding what makes our people tick inside the work hours and outside the work hours in their family life. And the other thing that hasn't changed when we're talking to our people is listen way more than we spend the amount of time talking.
Yeah.
Um, you know, one example that I've had in the last couple of weeks is a nurse in Detroit that I was meeting with on a one-on-one. She's 13 years old. She's Palestinian, and her dad exited her family. And so her mom is now raising 3 kids as a single mom. And this nurse basically at 13 had to take care of herself. And she moves herself to Canada with her mom. She puts herself through nursing school. She becomes a nurse at the age of 20 without, with as much support as her mom could give her,
Mm.
but she essentially took over her professional career entirely at that point. And, she told her story in about 10 minutes to me, but I now have that relationship with her. And so I know how special her story is and where she's gotten to in her life, but I took the time to listen. And that's one thing as I've grown as a manager, I always felt the need to fill the void with
Yeah.
words. When I'm talking to my team members, how did you get here? What is your story? And one of the coolest things, Ashani, is almost without exception, everybody's story is really, really cool. However
Yeah.
they got into medicine and then however they got to AccentCare. And again, once I've listened to that intently, I'm not just listening to it to check the box. I'm listening to how they got to this point and they're working with me and us. I've now got that personal relationship with them that I can text them when um, you know, I'm at a dance recital. I've got 3 girls at home. I'm at a dance recital. I can text the 3, 4 nurses and therapists that I know in our region and say, I'm sitting at a dance recital. What are you doing this weekend? And it's not about work. It's about outside of work. So I think those are the 2 big things where it's gotten more difficult. It's gotten more difficult to make sure we have that one-on-one and face-to-face time. But what hasn't changed, do your people really feel like you know them and that you
Yeah.
care about them outside the 9 to 5?
I think you make such a beautiful point because it's so underrated to say, yes, you should listen to your employees. Absolutely. But I think today, especially, with the advent of just hybrid working and COVID, which kind of has fundamentally changed how we interact and work, is how do you still invite your people in? How do you invite their true, authentic selves at the workplace? And I feel it's so easy to fall into deadlines and OKRs and objectives and goals every single time in a conversation, but finding moments of connection and inviting people in, their lives outside of work is, I think it's a skill that needs to be nurtured. And thank you for sharing that. It's truly, I think, at the center of how you build relationships and actually keep relationships as well.
Yeah.
Have you?
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was saying, have you seen a difference in maybe, like how you land up retaining employees? People just love to be working with you, to be on this team, and they just stay.
Yeah. And I think what I wanted to dive in on that you mentioned is people being allowed to be themselves within the
Yeah.
work environment. Now, obviously, we all have our HR protocols. We all have bounds that we have to stay
Yeah.
within. But one thing I think we do a really nice job of as an organization, having Spirit Week, having, engagement parties, things like that, where someone can come to work dressed up in
Yeah.
whatever, whatever the day of Spirit Week it is, right? But the organization stamps something that's agreeable to the modus of that organization. So it's within bounds. Everybody does it, everybody's engaged, and they can be a little bit more of the outside work themselves, inside work hours, right? So I think it's really important as an organization to, get that culture committee in place,
Yeah.
get people in place that want to volunteer to making the work environment a little bit more fun on some days, and allowing folks in a structured and organized fashion to have a little bit of fun at work. Um, in planning for this, as I'm going through this, you don't need some fancy degree,
Yeah.
to figure this stuff out. And maybe it's just time with management for me, but are you actually doing it? I talk to a lot of leaders and, gosh, I just can't retain staff. Well, what are your engagement activities? Oh, we do this, and this. When's the last time that you talked to, take me through your FTE model? And I go through the org chart. When's the last time you talked to this person? And, and they might say, oh yeah, I talked to so-and-so. Well, tell me about what their life is outside of work. And that's when I start to get blanks, right? That's when
Yeah.
I start. And that's the thing, to them, they feel like it's transactional versus we really care about them outside of work. And Ashani, I told my team a lot during our weekly meetings, probably more than they want to hear it, that over the course of a lifetime, we will spend more time at work,
Yeah.
which is great. We have a need, we have a demand for our skill set. We'll spend more time at work and with the people we work with than with our families. So we better really invest in knowing our people, making the work environment, making them feel fulfilled, but also making it fun, and making sure that we know them, what makes their work life enjoyable, and also what they like to do outside of work as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that perspective. And I think it definitely resonates. I'm an employee at Thoughtium, but, coming into Thoughtium, that was like my checklist. I'm like, do I like the people? Do I feel I have a voice? Can I bring my authentic self? Is there, do my colleagues and does my workplace really create the space for me as a whole? And I
Yeah.
think those are such key ingredients in deciding how long you decide to stay at a place. Truly, I do believe work can become family, and it is about just creating that space and bringing people in. Um, so
So it's
I
really cool you
yeah,
said there, Shawnee, like knowing Norman Anthony for a long time. And as they were developing Thoughtium, so you have a new team member, newish team member in yourself,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And they were saying create the space 5-6 years ago. So
and
what's
yeah,
really cool, right? Yes. And so what's really cool is that mantra has never left, right? The company is who they said they're going to be, obviously
true,
with change strategy, things like
yeah,
that. But from a humanistic people standpoint, they are who they intended to be. And now you're saying
absolutely,
create the space. as
Absolutely.
a new employee. That's awesome. And
Exactly.
I don't mean yesterday was your first day. I know you've been around
Yeah.
for a minute,
I,
but
I know, but like, yeah, the company's been
you know what
around
I mean? Yeah.
for far more than I have been over here. So
Yeah, that's and
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think that's what all of us hope is, I think what we really try to drive home is our people are first and our patients are second. If our
Yeah.
people are happy, then our patients aren't going to be happy. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
we spend more time designing solutions for our employees, for our nurses and therapists than we do for the patient. We spend more time because they know what will make them more efficient and will make that patient experience better. So we spend more time because we got to solve gate one before we solve gate two. And so again, as we're talking to other leaders,
Yeah.
we keep score every month. That's our strategy. We keep score on one-on-ones every month. So we have about 250 employees in the region. And our goal, in some months we hit and some months we don't, but our goal is that out of those 250 employees, 90% of them are going to get a one-on-one. So 200 of them, even numbers, 200 of them every single month, they should be getting a one-on-one with their manager.
Yeah.
I get involved with one-on-ones. So if their manager is on vacation, my door's open. It's a green light to say, hey, Chris,
Fantastic.
can you
Yeah.
do these 3 one-on-ones? And you know what's really funny is we've created a work environment where when I call someone that on an org chart is a couple layers, 3 layers, below where I'm at,
Yeah.
what do you think the first thing is they say to me when I call them? What do you think?
Um, they could have, I guess, gratitude for the culture, or
They ask what's wrong. Did I do something
oh,
wrong? That is the
hmm,
first thing that I can't, this year I've probably done about 50 one-on-ones. Out of
yeah.
those 250, I've done about 50. And I bet half, Ashani, when I call them the first time
It's like, what's
and just
what's
say,
wrong?
yeah,
What did I do?
yes, that isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's the work environment that we've created, that when the leader of a region or an organization reaches out to us, how sad is that
I
they're only
know.
getting reached out to when something's wrong. And I'm not saying something has happened to them in a prior stop in their career that they think that's normal. So that's typically the first thing that happens when I'll shoot them a text and say, hey, Brett, love to have a cup of coffee with you when you have time this week. I'm in town. What can we do? I will hear from their manager, half the time, hey, Brett reached out. Just, I let him know it's a one-on-one, but just a heads up, he wondered what was going on because he thought something was wrong. And so I think that's a really powerful thing, to think about, is that if as a leader, the only time you're calling somebody is to say, you missed this KPI, this, and this are wrong.
Yeah.
Are you shouting out the gratitude and the wins at the same ratio, or even, I hope, a greater ratio than you are on the misses and the problems?
That's fantastic, Chris. And I think that's really like setting a precedent as well. I'm sure we have a lot of leaders listening into this episode, and I think that's a great precedent. Where, as a leader, do you reach out only when things are going south, or are you also taking the time and the moments to reach out for appreciation, for just connection,
Yeah.
and I you've been a leader in this home health industry a really long time, and we actually work with a lot of life sciences groups ourselves, but I don't think anyone is as close to the point of impact or the point of care as your team. I know you shared some bits already, but I'd love to hear a little more about what are some stories of impact you hear, with your patients, especially, given the kind of investment you make in caretakers and that translates into the care with the
Yeah.
patients. What are some like stories you hear on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, not to get into really detailed
Yeah,
medical, I mean, we take care of really sick patients in the home. So,
yeah,
we typically take care of more transplant recipient,
hmm,
oncology recipient, wound care. We take care of a lot of really, really high tech stuff in the home. So without getting into making anyone sick on post lunch conversation here. You
Yeah.
know, having family members. I have a wife within the last week that I got involved in because it was a really complicated case and insurance was involved. But she was tearful on a call with me just because her husband on the first go around couldn't get the supplies that he needed when he got home. So he went
Mm,
back to the hospital 2 days later, and he was in really bad shape. And so to have someone call you crying and just giving their gratitude
mm.
of what you provided, and I take that gratitude at a 30K level, but when I'm in my one-on-ones with people, I am shoving that gratitude across the table. I didn't do much except build the system to allow the clinicians to deliver the miracles they do every day. So I just want to be clear on that. My job is to build the system and the engine that makes their job as efficient as possible. But no, I mean, you get patients calling you and loved ones calling you, like literally crying because you've kept them home, you've kept them
Yeah.
around their loved ones. Probably the one that gets me choked up the most is when we take care of someone for a long time, typically, so off and on for a year or greater, and their loved one, daughter, son, wife, will call you after they've passed away. So they've now passed away,
Yeah.
and the daughter, the son, or the wife will call and say, I just want to thank Nurse Jen because I know that she gave my dad another year's worth of life
Oh,
inside his
wow.
own home and with us. And I just wanted to say thank you. And that one, if that one doesn't choke you up, it's time to be in like you got to get out of medicine, right?
Yeah.
But those are because we are hands-on. I mean, Ashani, you can imagine, some of the difficult situations we walk into. We serve all parts of Chicagoland. So we see every different kind of home setting you can imagine, and our people are incredible. I give you a bag, and I give you a stethoscope, a blood pressure cuff, and a bunch of supplies, and I'm going to go need you to I'll give you a phone number and someone to contact and let them know you're coming, but you're going to go knock on that door and you never met them before, and I expect you to walk into the home, provide great care, walk back out, get in your car, and go do that 5-6 times a day.
I, Chris, I have goosebumps right now, like listening to all of that. And like, you can't see, but I have goosebumps all over. I can't imagine, when you imagine your team having the kind of impact they're having, not on just one person, but on families.
Yeah.
It's
Extended, and to your
so
point,
powerful.
extended family.
Yeah.
Yeah, sons, husbands, and wives just feeling in this, really hard to navigate space. And
Yeah.
for us to come in and say, hey, we're going to captain this ship and we're going to take you through this. We're your one-stop shop. Um, but again, I could sit there and say this on this medium, but what a loss if I'm not going out and having coffee with these folks and saying,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you're incredible. And what can I do to make things better? One other, this isn't so much, patient related, but just recently on a one-on-one, I had a clinician, and she was labor and delivery. She was a labor and delivery nurse, pretty much her entire nursing career, about 3 years. And so she'd work 7 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning, delivering babies. That was her job, right? So she saw our ad and she called and she's like, I've never really thought about home health, but I wanted to give it a look.
Yeah.
And primarily what she was looking at was quality of life. So she talked about at the previous job, and nothing against that job, I would be very
Yeah.
careful,
Yeah.
but she had kids that had evening activities. Well, she would say, I'd go to my kid's soccer game, but I wasn't really there because I was so tired from just working at 12 and then sleeping and then going
Yeah.
to their game. I wasn't really there. She goes, home health has given me the ability to actually be present at my kids' activities now. And that's after she went to 5-6 homes that day, like we just talked about, and impacted right at that
Yeah.
direct impact in front of families. So yeah, those are the cool things that I get to hear every day. I'm blessed for it.
That's very interesting, Chris, because question that comes to my mind is, as a leader, what are some things you keep reminding your field teams about? It feels like creating that space for them to have, to bring in their family lives, to have that balance, to remain present is one thing. But what are some things you find yourself constantly reminding your teams about?
Um, how important they are, how much I
Yeah.
care about them, and again, like not just in a meeting, but me sitting across from them. So and let me back up. I'm a physical therapist by trade.
Hmm.
So I treated in the field for almost a decade before I went into management, right?
Yeah.
I've lived it. I've done it.
You
And
understand. Yeah.
yeah, and I really saw the impact of what we did day out and day out with these folks. So it's always been powerful for me to sit across from them and say, I know the miracle that you're delivering every day. Because
Yeah.
as humans, when we do something multiple repetitions, it loses the sharpness, right? It gets a little dull. So
Absolutely.
even at times, it's good for me to say, what you're doing every day is incredible. And I got to remind them of that because unbeknownst to them, they've done it so many times. Like, well, this is my job. No, what you're doing is incredible. And, and getting a story out of them, of what they did in someone's home, waking them up to that fact is really cool. The other, uh, what they do is incredible. And that, again, I genuinely care about them
Yeah.
both as a clinician, but also as a person. Um, if they're saying that the work is going into their evenings, I'm going to go attack that and say, immediately get education, working with them, or how can I help them to get
Mm.
this job to be more containable so that they can be with their families after hours. So, one, reminding the people that the work that they're doing is incredible, and two, that I genuinely care about them, but I'm saying that I care about them in person.
That's amazing, Chris. I think expressing gratitude and appreciation is it's a very grounding experience, I think, for both a leader and also the person receiving it. And on this point of pausing and reflecting, it's so powerful. It's something we've been incorporating more into our practice with even our clients. Finding these moments to just pause and acknowledge everything that you've been doing, everything that's been achieved, because it's so
Yeah.
easy when things are going right to just keep going on with life, but really kind of pausing and having gratitude and appreciating what's been achieved, I think really sets the precedent for what more can be done in the future.
Yeah, it's a great call, and I see a lot of the posts that you all are putting up, and the,
Yeah.
the team that you guys are doing, and it's why you all are creating such an amazing culture. And I love every time that you guys post someone with the T-shirt and the new number. You
Yeah.
know, growth only happens when you retain people,
Yes.
and you build into that level of hiring. Now we can grow again. And I think that's what's amazing with some leaders I talk to, way smarter than I am, way smarter than I am, right? They're brilliant, but the part that they're missing is that, why can't I retain people? And that's
Yeah.
the thing too. You have to be smart enough that if it's not natural for you to go meet individuals on your team, one thing I love to do too is I do handwritten notes, probably write 2 to 3 handwritten notes to folks within the region that just
Yeah.
did something special, throughout the month. And again, people will see my name on a card and they're like, what is going on? And then, but I get that text back to them that I made their week, I made their month. And
Yeah.
and it's not to check a box for me. That's something that's a little more natural for me as a leader, where another leader, that might not be their thing. Put someone next to you that it is their thing.
Yeah.
Be smart enough to put someone next to you that, employee engagement, employee enablement is what they wake up thinking about every day. And that's what that for me, naturally, I don't wake up thinking about the bottom line. I don't wake up thinking about KPIs. I wake up thinking about people. When you manage 250 people almost every day, like right now, I've got 2, 3 people that I'm texting on the side because they have really difficult personal situations going on in their life. And when I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I think about is, hey, stay in touch with me today. I hope you're having a great day. But
Yeah.
that's natural to me. I surround myself with people that they have the strengths that I might not have, right? But if you're that leader that doesn't necessarily enjoy those components, I still recommend that you do every little bit that you can. But if you don't enjoy those components, put someone next to you that does, because those folks you're hiring, they deserve a great and safe place to work at. And for you to achieve those 5 and 10-year goals, you're going to need those great people to stay with you, or you're continually 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
So you have to put the heart in the center of the business, basically. So
for me, others would disagree. We've increased our census. So when in 2017, we had a census of about 500 patients in one state. Now we have a census of 2,000 patients across 4 states. In 2017, we had about 50 employees. Now we have 250 employees. So for me, I think it works. I'm not, but I talk to leaders all the time that they've got a different philosophy and maybe a different way of doing things. And that's okay. But I think the core of what we're talking about today is, how do we make sure that our people love what they're doing while they're with us at work, but then also when they're outside of work, they say great things about where they work at, because we know them inside and outside of work. I think that's what we're getting at today. And I'd hope it's not going to be perfect every time out of 250 employees, but I hope when you ask someone that works for us and has a cup of coffee, that they feel safe when they go to work every day. They know they're respected. They know they're listened to. They know they have a voice. And they know when they have a problem, they have an outlet, and they have leadership that will listen to them and try to fix those problems for them.
That's very important. And hey, Chris, if I was a healthcare worker, I think I would come work for you after everything, after this conversation.
We've always got room for great clinicians and people. So if you know somebody, have them give me a call or a text. And notice too, I didn't say go to the job board, right? I said call me.
Absolutely.
That's a difference too. And we're of a size like, AccentCare is a really, really large and great company. We take care of about 35,000 patients a day. It's incredible. But my region, if I've got somebody interested in working for us, call me. There's no more important conversation I can have than a current employee saying, I've got somebody else I think would be a great fit here. I want them to call me, because that means that I get to take care of more patients and keep fulfilling the vision and mission that we have. So but that makes me happy that you think about joining the team. I love it.
Absolutely. Chris, this has been wonderful. And I know from everything I've heard from Anthony, Norm, Amanda, I know you're someone who prides himself in doing the little things right. So as we summarize this conversation, if there was one tip you were to leave our viewers and our listeners with on what does it mean to enable your teams, what's that one tip you would leave them with?
Only one. I would challenge you to know one special thing about every single one of your employees. Okay. And if you're of such a scale, I know you guys have had people on this show that, manage, thousands of people, right? But especially those of us that are, in that small to mid business level, at least of all of your direct reports, know one thing. What's their favorite band? Are they a dog person? Are they a cat person? Are they a cat and a dog person? Can they give a quote from any Seinfeld episode that ever came out? What is their nationality? And, why, what do they hold near and dear to their hearts about their nationality? What's their favorite food? That would be my one tip, because long-term professional engagement and relationships for me, I've gotten exponentially more value out of knowing who they are outside of work than I have on patting them on the back because you were 98% productive last year. Good job. Versus, how's your daughter's soccer team doing this fall? I'd know one unique item about every single person within your organization. And if you're too big, ask that out of your managers. Hey, our manager over there, what does she do outside of work? And if you don't know today, that's okay. In a week, I want you to go have coffee with them, and I
Yeah.
want you to come back and tell me, what do they do outside of work that they enjoy? So know one unique thing about the employees in your organization.
That is a fantastic tip. I think it's so simplistic in nature and yet a very powerful one. So thank you for sharing that, Chris. This has been a wonderful conversation, and we always like to wrap up a show. And I know you've been through this before with a little bit of a lightning round that
Sure.
helps our viewers know a little more about who Chris is.
Sure.
So, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. First question. What is something you're currently reading, watching, or listening to?
I am listening. Oh my gosh. I got to look it up really quick. Forgive me. Hold on. I got to get Spotify up here. Forgive me. I know we're on the clock here. Blessing 04. Blessing 04. So,
Blessing of Four.
Blessing 04. Yeah. So last name's OFFOR. And he came up. I'm a fairly strong faith-based person. So
Yeah.
he came up in my requested playlist, and I've been listening to him almost on repeat. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to lately is Blessing 04. Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. Second question. What is something you're deeply grateful for right now?
My family and
Your
that they're
family.
healthy. That's yeah.
Mm.
You know, people always ask, how's your family doing? They're healthy. That's all. That's
Yeah.
it. I think being in medicine, Ashani, like, and I love rubbing that off. Like, I feel like we've rubbed shoulders for a half hour here and you're getting it. I'm around sick people every day.
Yeah.
I'm around folks every day that would give anything to get into a car again and go to church or go to their granddaughter or grandson's event. Simple stuff. Stand up on their own. Stand up on their own. And so I am blessed in the fact that I'm grateful for the simplest of things. So yeah, I'm grateful every single day. My wife, my 3 girls, they're healthy. And I'm stuck on that every day. So that right away, I'm most grateful for that. Yeah.
That's beautiful because it's exactly the things we take for granted that, when they're taken away from us, we truly realize the value. And I think you get to see it on a day-to-day basis, what it means to not have health,
Anybody ever needs help with perspective, have them call me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Anthony and Norm will tell you that,
Yeah.
we have a similar close group of friends, but if anybody needs perspective, have them call me because, I'm lucky. I didn't do anything, special to get there. I'm surrounded by illness and sickness every single day. My job is to help mend people that are broken medically. Right. So it doesn't just being able to get up and walk out the door every day is a massive blessing when you're surrounded by that sickness every day. So
totally. Last question for you, Chris.
All
Think
right.
about something you admire about yourself and fill in the blank.
Oh, no, that's a terrible question. I do this on purpose.
I love this question. It's my favorite. So it's like, if the world were more like me, it would be more.
Oh, man. This is so cheesy and corny, but grateful.
Grateful.
Be grateful.
I think that's something I believe that because just in this, 30 minutes of conversation that I've had with you, you've almost like you've taught me to be grateful about a lot of small things I haven't thought about in the last even week. So I think that's very befitting.
Yeah. And I want to say too, though, I'm challenged with that. The little tiny things in work and in life that I let blow up. And, I think there's a reason that I get that phone call from somebody that says, I got this XYZ patient. What are we going to do? And I'm like, oh my God, I was just worried about the parking ticket that I got on Green Street because it's no parking. Who cares? Like, it's going to be all right. Right. So, I think just waking up and I'm blessed to get to work with so many great people outside of me leaving home. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for a lot of things that I've got, and I don't have it all figured out. I think it's a big thing too that Anthony and Norman and I have always leaned on each other is vulnerability. I can literally
Yeah,
call these two and tell them the most intimate, sensitive thing in the world. And I know I'm not scared to do it because we both all three of us know that we have that relationship. So um yeah, so I'm grateful for a lot of things,
that's
Ashani.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's powerful to have that community, you know.
absolutely.
Well, Chris, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure chatting with you, learning from your perspective. And this was truly, I think, a highlight for my week. It was one of the most beautiful conversations I've had. So
Yeah,
thank you so much.
yeah, thank you guys for inviting me. It means the world to me. Anthony, better watch out. You're good at this. So you better watch
Thank
out.
you. Yeah, that's
All
my
right.
plan to take over Anthony's world, you know,
Get him.
one
Get him.
conversation at a time.
There you go. That's it. Just keep
Wow.
knocking those dominoes down until you take them out. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you
Nice to
so
meet
much,
you.
Chris. Nice to meet
Yeah.
you. You have a wonderful Thursday and the rest of your week. Bye
You
bye.
as well. Thank you.
And with that, we wrap up our episode for this week. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. And as a reminder, we go live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central, and you can find all our Navigating Now episodes on thoughtium.com/live. Signing off, my name is Eshani Gupta, and I hope you all have a beautiful Thursday and enjoy the start of this wonderful summer.